The first day of a new era. September 16th, 2028. Friday. The psychologist said that to relieve stress, I need to keep a diary. This is ridiculous, but let's try. So, hello, diary. We're going to the cottage. We took a bucket of kebabs with us. People will come on Saturday. Traffic jams are annoying. The Minsk highway is a tin can. There are almost 200 kilometers to go. My wife will be sleeping all the way back. I took the Saiga with me. I promised Vano long ago that I would take him to the forest, to my secret shooting range. That's it. I'm tired of chewing snot. It's time to move out. The first day. Diary, hi. I'm writing shit like a fool again. Alex doesn't seem to be coming. He was urgently called to work at the Ministry of Defense. Vano and Svetka are on their way. Irka has finished cooking salads and is lying in a hammock. I just got back from the supermarket, and I brought back a pack of Coca-Cola and toilet paper. Do I really have to list everything here? Okay, what should I write about? Yeah. Sprat. Spun a piece of shish kebab. Now the rumble is chewing it under the porch. Getting up and taking it away is lazy. From the side of the Minsk highway, continuous horns of cars, a single hum. Are they seeing Putin off again? He usually doesn't get that far. Here they stopped. He must have passed through. Oh, something interesting. A star fall in the afternoon. 1, 2, 5. It's like a lot of animals. The third day. It's a kick-ass. It's a kick-ass. It's a kick-ass.
The psychologist is right. It gets easier when you write.
Burns already hurt less. I didn't know it happened that way. It was like lying on the beach under the sun. I'm still terribly sleepy. I need to go check on Ira. The fifth day. We're sitting in the basement. We eat a raw but well-marinated shish kebab. We hardly talk. Yesterday I ran to the car and to the refrigerator. I stole everything I could into the basement. It was raining black. I heard that it was very dangerous, so I ran back to the basement at the first drop. I also took a first aid kit from the car. They divorced iodine from the pine cone forest. They were drinking. It's a terrible mess. But I've heard that it's the only way to protect yourself from radiation. All the vodka was consumed even earlier. The eighth day. It was raining again. 3 times in a row. The ashes seem to have been washed away. It's scary to go outside, but you can't stay in the basement forever. The food is over. More precisely, there was some crap like chips. As I understand it, you can't eat anything from the garden either. It's worse that the water is running out. The 9th day. I went to the pump. There is no water. Then I went to the neighbors. They have something like an artesian well on the site. Anyway, we have water now, plenty of water. Ira came to her senses more or less. She helped me. They dragged water, poured everything around. I read that this is how decontamination is carried out. The house was cleaned. He was almost unharmed, only the paint had darkened in some places. The 10th day. We slept in the house. The first time. We slept well. I feel great. The burns are completely gone. The hair does not fall out. In general, it looks like we got carried away. I saw the mushroom from the direction of Vyazma. They must have dropped it there. There was a lot from Moscow. More precisely, there were flashes. A lot. The 11th day. We went through the neighbors' houses. There was almost no one except Grandpa Opanas. My grandfather is deaf and senile. Oh, and I found a body. They were new. They had built themselves a huge brick house on the outskirts. Apparently, he was caught in a black downpour. It was an eerie sight. Boils, blood, and pulled-out hair. Ugh, I'm already feeling sick again. The 12th day, we decided to go to the supermarket. The products that were collected when we were climbing around the neighbors are almost over. Urka is fine. He's laughing, he's teasing me. By the way, I'll charge my cell phone while we're driving. What the hell is not joking? However, there is no electricity in the networks. The car started. Hooray for Ford! Urka thought to turn on the radio. It's the same thing on all the channels. Attention, this is the Civil Defense Headquarters. Citizens, if you hear this signal, go to the nearest evacuation points. Evacuation points are located in the safe reception area of this message. The list goes on. When it finishes, the entire message repeats. We decided to get to Gagarin. On the way, though, we'll stop at a supermarket. I remembered the Mad Max, and I loaded the Saiga just in case. The 14th day. Lots of events. There was a police patrol in front of the supermarket. As soon as we appeared, 2 machine gunners took aim at us. They ordered me to get out of the car. They demanded documents. The car was searched. Saiga was taken away. While all this was happening, we saw some soldiers in camouflage loading some boxes from a store into a truck. After the check, the police told us to park the car and wait for the evacuation with them. One of them got into the car and talked to someone on the radio. A couple more hours later, a real APC arrived. They helped us get inside. It's uncomfortable and creepy. Nevertheless, as soon as we got on the highway, it became clear that nothing but an armored personnel carrier would have passed there. Hundreds of abandoned cars right on the road. We drove to Gagarin for an hour and a half, taking our time. On the spot, they found a bunch of military personnel. They set up a tent camp on the outskirts of the city. They assigned us there, ordering us, however, to report to the local military enlistment office in the morning. The camp has electricity, light, and warm water. Literally from the doorway, they checked us with some devices, said that we had surprisingly little to say, after which they took away all our clothes and sent us to wash. Finally, we washed up like humans. On exiting the shower, the camp's quartermaster handed out an old, washed uniform. In my opinion, it's still a Soviet model, while almost all civilians here are dressed like that. It looks like it's coming from the warehouses. The 15th day. It took a long time for the military enlistment office to find out who could do what. It became more clear about the military. As I understand it, this is one of the parts near Moscow that the bombs were spared. Drivers, or a support regiment, or whatever they're called. In general, they are not real warriors. Nevertheless, they work smoothly. All civilians were given some tasks. Upon learning that I was a manager, I was ordered to report to Ensign Sitnov. As it turned out, he is responsible for the supply. Accordingly, our task is to drag the round, roll the square, as he told us. They returned to the camp after midnight, but they collected 2 trucks of all kinds of food, medicines, and even gas masks from one of the construction shops in the surrounding villages. Along the way, they picked up 3 dozen civilians. The people began to come alive and crawl out. The 17th day. 4 people were killed in front of my eyes today. It was like this. We, accompanied by the police, arrived at the warehouses in the Artyomok area, and they found 6 looters there. The police demanded to surrender immediately. In response, they opened fire. Shotguns, apparently. One of our guys got shot in the shoulder. At this time, an ensign and 2 regular soldiers, and not volunteers like us, went around the vegetable gardens. At that time, the looters were distracted by the police, firing harassing automatic weapons. As a result, our eagles jumped out from the rear of the looters and killed 4 of them in 3 barrels. 2 more were just wounded. The weapons were taken away. They were bandaged, loaded into the back. All the time we were messing around in the warehouse, they were silent. And only when we were already handing over the shift to the guys from Mojaisk, there is another collection point there, one of the looters started asking to call the chief. I ran to get the ensign. The wounded man began to beg the foreman to save their families. They say they tried not for themselves, but for the few families who remained in the village of Sudakovo. Sitnov brought a map, and the wounded man showed him his village, which lay in some kind of ass of the world, although we had passed Vlasovo and Baranovo a couple of times in our time, even before the war. Then, figuring that it was in Modchesk's area of responsibility, he contacted the local camp. I was smoking nearby, so I heard him recommend sending an infantry fighting vehicle and an armed platoon instead of a truck, because it could be a rat trap. The 18th day. Today, according to the law of wartime, the remaining looters were shot. For looting and resisting the armed forces of the Russian Federation in wartime. Actually, our squad is not the only one, so there are a lot of looters. 10 men were brought to the wall. 4 people were injured. No show-off, nothing. They took him out, read out the order of the garrison commander, and slashed him with machine guns. It's so casual. Also, intelligence returned from Moscow today. Well, more precisely, the guys drove some kind of special armored vehicle. They seemed to call it RHM in conversation. A couple of days ago towards Moscow. The task was to see if there was anything left of Kubinka and how bad everything was. It turned out to be very bad. There are still a lot of fires. Not everything has burned down yet. It is simply impossible to drive up to the MKAD via highways. If in our combs the cars are even more or less discharged. Then in the Kubinka area, there is one continuous traffic jam on the road. Moreover, even the armored personnel carrier's dope is not enough to push cars off the road. As a result, they rushed around. They were able to approach the MKAD in the Rublevka area. The infection is already quite moderate, but judging by what I saw, no one managed to survive in the city. There are continuous fires, not a single building of any height. Maybe there's someone in the shelters. It was decided to send a couple of dump tanks to the city as bulldozers that would dump cars on the side of the road. I volunteered for this expedition. The 20th day. We're on our way. We're walking smartly. Tanks are in front, and our 8 armored personnel carriers are behind. We're sitting in the first 2. The rest are empty. To evacuate the citizens. The operation is fully coordinated with the headquarters of the GO of the Moscow region. As I understand it, the headquarters is located in some kind of bunker and keeps in touch by radio with all the surviving units. Actually, I noticed that we live on the same day. I still haven't even really found out what it was, how the war started. Not a damn thing. Yes, as I have already written, the operation is synchronized. We are entering the city from the west, and the guys from Dimitrov are coming from the north, and so on. The idea is to get the survivors out of the outskirts. In the center, as I understood from the conversations of the commanding fathers, everyone has already been written off in absentia. Well, judging by their conversations, there's no one to save. In Himgondon, or officially, the UGC is wildly inconvenient. Even taking into account the fact that the gas masks are still in the bags, we rely on the armored personnel carriers. I still have 100% vision, thank God. I can't imagine how bespectacled people survive. Glasses definitely don't fit into a gas mask. Urka, by the way, showed herself in the kitchen. I've always said, marry only plump girls. They are in themselves an advertising signboard for their culinary talents. As a result, she is now the assistant to the head cook of the camp. Okay, then I'll continue. Writing in a three-legged UGC glove is wildly uncomfortable. The 23rd day. We returned from Moscow. I don't really want to write anything. Captain Karlamov, who commanded the raid, ordered everyone to give out 200 grams upon their return. The right decision. Today, fuck. PZDCNY, inaudible. The 24th day. You should drink less. We need to drink less, much less, very strongly. Oh, my head. But there is awesome news. The president went on the air. Nothing definite, unfortunately. The traditional, hold on, be strong, we'll take it out, we will win, let's defend. The glow over Moscow is already noticeably quieter. Today, I can sort out my thoughts about our rescue expedition. Well, first of all, we didn't go there for nothing. Almost 1,500 people were taken out, naturally not on 4 armored personnel carriers. I had to call for help. All these people were hiding in the old Soviet shelters. But in general, what I saw in the city is freezing. Almost everything that protruded more than 2 meters from the ground was cut off. Almost 24 warheads landed on the city, as the captain said. This is very noticeable. The ground is uneven. It felt like there was an earthquake. Actually, as I understand it, some of the warheads were of a deepening type, to destroy bunkers. They were able to drive into the depths of the city only as far as Poklanaya Gora. Nothing further. A naturally plowed field. On the outskirts, it's also tin. The entire Molodezhnaya district is a solid broken brick from the local Khrushchevs. A little better in Krylatskoye. By the way, there was the largest haul of survivors there. As it turned out, almost the entire area was riddled with bomb shelters. All the streets are covered with remains, rotting pieces of corpses somewhere in the shadows. Here, someone is lucky. The outskirts suffered less than the center, which is why more horrors remained. I could barely stand it and didn't vomit on my gas mask, and there was no way to take it off. From the moment we first got out of the APC until the moment of decontamination, we were supposed to wear a gas mask all the time. However, a couple of our guys couldn't stand it. They tore off the masks and emptied the stomachs. They were immediately given medicines from AI, but to be honest, I don't know what will happen to them. Maybe I'll get lucky. Maybe not. Several times we came across absolutely creepy corpses of survivors of the bombing itself. People with half-charred bodies, with scorched, burnt eyes. People with severed limbs. People with terrible wounds. All their postures indicated that they were trying to escape somewhere after the bombing. I'm writing all this now, and it's getting easier. Thank you, Natalia Ivanovna. I don't know what's wrong with you right now. I think you flew to Spain on Saturday morning. Did you make it? 150th day. It's been almost 6 months. Irka is pregnant. I got a rank. I'm a sergeant now. We have almost everything with titles now. More precisely, you can either be a soldier or a ballast. It's normal for a woman. It's unacceptable for a man. We still live around Gagarin, but not in a field camp anymore, but in shared prefabricated barracks. Supplies of tools, food, and a lot of everything came from the bins of the motherland. The winter turned out to be wildly cold. It's understandable. The days are gray. It's like it's always twilight. However, in any case, it's not eternal night, as I imagined it to be. Nevertheless, the forecasts are quite encouraging. The government believes that a nuclear winter, as such, will not take place. There will be a temporary decrease in temperature by several degrees, but not the constant snows. In principle, it looks like it. Anyway, although it is colder than usual, there have already been thaws, and the haze is gradually dissipating. Although radioactive contamination persists in places, the situation has mostly returned to the background, maybe a little higher. As a result of the war, we completely lost Moscow, St. Petersburg, Nizhny Novgorod, Samara, Novosibirsk, and a bunch of other cities. Nevertheless, most of the relatively small towns have survived. Moreover, due to the fact that the bombs fell at the height of Saturday, when people were driving to the country, many more survived than if the strike had been carried out on a weekday. I do not know what damage we have done to the United States, but according to rumors, they are even worse off than we are. Anyway, the guys from the radio part say that if our radio amateurs can still be found on the air, then the Yankees have no chance. However, maybe it's just a disturbance of the ionosphere. Strictly speaking, I only know one thing. Humanity has made a huge mistake. Nevertheless, this mistake did not become fatal. This means that life goes on. The main thing is that we were able to prevent chaos. But as long as people are united and work together, all difficulties can be overcome.